This is Nifty Conversations. Our guest today is Jackie. Jackie is launching her new book, On the Other Side. Welcome, Jackie. Jackie, how would you like to tell us about your new project?
So my name is Jackie Alecho, and I've finished publishing a book called On the Other Side. It's a book about overcoming different parts in my life. So it's about a journey that I've taken throughout my life, from young all the way up until basically today. Moving on from depression and anxiety and bullying, moving into self-confidence, self-love, self-awareness, and just motivating, inspiring, and just making people know that they're not alone. Mm-hmm. And that there's people who suffer the same things as them, and how I went through it, mm-hmm. and then how other people can take things from me to go through it as well.
So a little bit about yourself. So what is it that made you write this book, or what is it that you've been through to come to a point where you felt I needed to write a book?
So I started with my own website.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like a what they would say like a blog, where I regularly updated it on stories about different stories that have happened in my life, and reflecting on them, and then also moving on to how I got over those situations. Most of them were based around bullying, or based around different scenarios where I found myself deeper in depression. And so I was putting that on the website and updating that weekly, and I got a lot of feedback and a lot of people viewing the website from all around the world. People emailing me via the website to either congratulate me or ask me for a little bit of help or guidance on how I went through those specific situations. And then I started going to different events where there's like motivation, inspiration, and empowerment events for women, for young people, for people with depression, or different types of empowerment events. And again, just a lot of conversations, a lot of feedback. And I've always studied, I've always wrote poetry. So I merged the two, conversations and the blog, and my passion for poetry and writing, and I studied writing in university. So I kind of just merged those together and decided that is there another way to reach people, and people like reading books and the whole physical touch of a book, rather than just being on the internet all day or on your phone all day. The kind of physical presence of a book, being put out there, and connecting with someone on a different level, was what was my inspiration to kind of go forward and write.
So what's the end goal for you? What is it that you want to achieve by? So you had your online blog. Is that still going?
Yeah. So I had to put it on pause to write the book.
Yeah.
The reason why I had to do that is because the style of writing is two different styles. So the style of writing for the book is very short, very sweet, and quite to the point, with like a quick turnover of what has happened, and how I got over it, and what I'm giving to you as an audience afterwards. While the blog was a story, very graphic stories that were quite long in piece, and then in the end, I'd kind of give the audience how I got over it, but not any kind of information on what I can give to you afterwards. So because of that, the two styles of writing, I can't switch in between one and the other. So if I'm writing the blog, that's where my creative mind is. And then I switched over to writing the book, and that's now where my creative mind is. So I couldn't switch over, like my mind and writing style would just be duplicating on both. I'd just be doing the same thing, and I wanted to separate the two. So that's why the I'm not doing the blog at the moment, but I will be going back to the blog. Right. It's while I was writing the book, I was doing the book.
So what's the name of the blog, so those people who are interested to find out?
The blog is On the Other Side of Depression.
Yeah.
So it's www.onthe on the other side of depression.com.
And what have you learned through the process of doing the blog? Has that helped you, or that hindered you in any way while you're writing a blog? What are the key things that you've learned from doing the blog?
While writing the blog, I was still really learning about myself. I was still trying. I originally started using the blog as a push for me to push through depression towards the end. Really, the blog was called On the Other Side of Depression, and I believe that at the time of me starting the blog, I was on my way to the other side. And then, getting feedback and hearing other people's stories and hearing how I've helped other people get through this, get through that. Some people have emailed me saying they're really this morning they were really feeling down and they were ready to let everything go, and then they stumbled across the blog or somebody sent it to them, and just knowing that I've been able to help even one person, is very rewarding. And again, the blog made me feel and understand that I wasn't alone in a lot of the thoughts that I had. So it allowed me to reiterate that message in the book, that actually there's no feelings that are exclusive to anybody. Every feeling that you felt, somebody else has felt, or somebody else feels now, or they're going to feel. So that was the process behind it. But the nothing has hindered me as such. But sometimes, because I'm writing about my real life, I have brothers and sisters, I have parents, I have friends, and I have experiences that involve all of them, some of them none of them, some of them old friends. So what I say sometimes, or what I've wanted to write, has sometimes I've had to take a step back and think, can I say that? Can I write that? Because one, it may be my recollection of things, but not the recollection of others.
Yeah. Because I can imagine the challenge is always around how do you write something that affects your family and and how they feel about that. How have you managed that situation? How have you managed to address that?
I wanted to be very open and very honest in my writing,
which is important.
Which was very important for me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to miss out things just to save a conversation that may be a little bit awkward or a little bit uneasy for somebody else, because I was wanting to tell my truth. My truth may not mirror other people's values or opinions or feelings, but I wanted to be open and honest because I went to therapy during my stages of depression, and the most important thing I learned was honest communication.
And that's really important, because you talk about the help that you had deal with depression and some of the things that you learned about honesty. Is there anything else that you learned through that period of time that you think is important, especially as a tool to deal with it, with depression?
Yeah, so not running away.
Okay.
Not running away. I found that in depression, it's not easy. You do start running away from things like your daily routine, which is a very simple example. Your daily routine may be getting up, as simple as getting up. You will avoid that because you want to avoid everything else that comes with waking up in the morning, going to see people, speaking to people, washing your clothes, stuff like that. So I learned that I was avoiding a lot of things at that time, and a lot of things were piling up because I was avoiding things, which again created more pressure and more anxiety, more anxiousness. So an increase of feeling deeper into like the stages of depression because you're avoiding things. So that was one of the things that I learned and had to try and get over very, very, very quickly, before I could move forwards in anything and in any type of progress, because part of the progress is to kind of get things out there first, and then start sorting them out. And if I was avoiding sorting them out, then there would be no forward movement, because I'm avoiding sorting things out. So yeah, that was one of the bigger lessons also.
So not procrastinating, is that the right way of describing it? Or
no, because procrastination means you put it aside and you do it at a point that you want to. Avoiding is you're not going to do it.
Okay, so tackling things straight head on.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there other tools that you managed to acquire through the process that you think this has helped me? Because you talked about honesty, you talked about tackling things head on, not avoiding things. Is there anything else that you thought
that I learned? Maybe I did through therapy or through my process.
There's two stages, isn't it? There's a therapy process, which I think, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, is about having some tools, and then the rest of the process, as you started utilizing those tools, you learned other things. So what are the lessons in those, I call them phases for lack of a better word? But
so those therapy, because I used Newham Talking Therapies, so it's a service IAPT, that used to be referred, but now you self-refer. But there's a limited amount of time in those therapy sessions. They give you pose the problem, or they help you pose the problem, and then you go through the 30 minutes, 40 minutes of asking questions that are very clinical, or they ask you clinical questions, and you go through worksheets and stuff like that. And then in the end, you're sent off to do your homework, which is, if you've avoided so and so, you'd go and confront so and so, those kind of things. So you were limited in terms of the tools that you were given because of time, because of the amount of time that you have in therapies, like 10, 12 weeks. Unless you're going for private therapy, then I guess you're paying, so you go for, I guess, how much your money runs. But after that, I think I started to, one of the things that I took from myself, the blog, people around me, is confidence. So one of the main things that I know categorically pushed me away from the feeling of feeling down, despondent, and just uncomfortable within myself was learning confidence, learning how to be confident, learning how to feel confident. Without confidence, I wouldn't have been able to move at any kind of velocity of how I have now.
And what are those things that have helped build that confidence? You talked about, the feedback you get from other people, your blogging. Just flesh out a little bit how those things have helped you in precise terms or specific terms, specific ways.
So I used those tools from therapy, as in going head on, kind of just facing things head on. Sorry, that's the word. That's the sentence. But then without confidence, you got kind of going. You still have a barrier, because you're not all the way there. You just know that you need to go and say, or you need to go and do. So in university, when I was in university, was when I was going to therapy, and I used to turn up to the lectures, and before it was time to, or if I knew that the lecturer was going to say, at this point you're going to talk to somebody, or because you know it's going to come, because they give you the brief at the beginning of the session, right? I would leave, so I would just go home. So I knew it was coming, and that's the point where I just knew I'm not going to speak to anyone. I don't want to, because I don't have the confidence to, and two, I don't want to engage with anybody. With depression, those are the kind of things that are common with people that suffer those kind of things. So the homework from therapy was to go and stay in the session the whole time, one, and also for me to go and engage with somebody. Not to wait for someone to engage with me. It didn't happen, of course. I didn't do it for some time. I'm not too sure the amount of weeks, but I didn't do it. Then I started to understand that it's actually just me and the confidence that I don't have, and the fear of other people when I talk to them, what they think, what they're going to think of me. And also, I was very insecure in general, but very insecure about how I look.
Secure
how I
or
sound.
insecure? Okay.
Insecure, sorry, about how I look, how I sound, like my voice, and then just like my ideas that, you know, what people. I've never worried so much actually about what people think about me in my character, but more my outward appearance. So I had to sit back and think to myself, what is it that is the problem with why I think this? And obviously it came down to the bullying that I had suffered for the years that I did. So I decided to fake it. And faking it was the only way. It was the number one reason why I am confident today.
Okay, so fake it until you make it.
Fake it until you make it. And you say, you hear that expression, you know, it's funny. You don't really think anything of it past that it's funny. But I can put my life on that expression, that is why I have been able to write a book and express to other people and be here today, be alive, be here, be well, be everything. Fake it until you make it. And I've now made it, but I had to start with fake it.
Okay. Are you in a better place now than you were when you started the blogging, would you say? Or is it something that you have to work on a regular basis? How would you describe?
So yeah, as in when I started the blog, I was still fairly new to the journey of recovery. I had already started the journey of recovery, but it was a fairly new time. Well, I was fairly new into the process, and now I'm still alive here, so I'm still going through my journey. The journey hasn't stopped. I still have to work on myself every other week, and I learn new things about myself. The more people I meet, the more situations that I face, the reminders of past experiences that may not be so good. Every time I write, I'm writing about the past, right? So I'm reminding myself of all those traumas, shall we say, all those hard times. So you start learning more about yourself as you go. I guess everybody does, not just myself, everybody does. But I'm just more aware, and I make mistakes all the time, weekly, monthly, and I find myself evaluating myself or reevaluating situations or overthinking things, which again, overthinking puts you back into those places. But then I have those tools to allow me to get them back out of my bag and say, you already learned this tool, Jackie, let's use this to move forward. But again, it's never going to be a process that stops. I'm always working on it.
So in terms of like the things that you have around you, you've done the therapy, you have the blog, and the feedback that's come from that, and also the help that you provided other people that's given you, so you built your confidence as well. Is there any other elements that have helped really in the journey? And you talked about honesty as well earlier on. So these components that if you start to pull them together, it seems to have helped you or helping you constantly, and also you feel or you say that you're continuously learning. Is there any other elements that help you, whether it's
so people, my friends, my family, without people, as in we're here, I'm not here alone. And that is another thing that again is a massive learning for myself, and what I'd pass to others is that you aren't here alone. You may feel alone inside yourself, but your body here on this earth, you're here with others. So some people, not everybody, and not everybody you come across is going to have the tools or even want to help you. But there are people here in this life, in this world, that are able to help you. So that's what I'd pass on to others. That's just a side message. But for myself, without friends, without family, without my dad, constantly listening and reminding me, Jackie, you've been through that one, you need to go back to that tool that you learned, because after every therapy session, my dad used to ask me about the whole session, and sometimes the session was so draining, and then you go home for more session. Like, I don't want no more.
double shot.
But exactly.
Yes.
But again, maybe he was taking that for his own learning, but also taking that so that he has the tools to, when I forget I have them, he now brandishes them to me, you know. So without that reminder, that constant reminder that if I forgot, he hasn't forgot, you know. And then I have brothers and sisters, and I have a mom, and I have many wonderful friends again that remind me, or they have their own lessons. I'm the youngest of four, so they have their own lessons or their own experiences that sometimes I don't know about, but then when I go for it, they say, oh, but we've been through this, and it's kind of mirroring what we've been through, and this is how we sorted it. Or they would just offer their help or their service to me, whatever it is, and I can go through it in that way. Then I have many different friends with many different experiences as well, and they've been through with me at whatever stage it is that they've been with me. So they, again, just a reminder, if I need to speak or if I need to cry, that, you know, they're there. So that's very important, just knowing that there's people around you. Not everybody has the closest people around them to help them. Sometimes the closest people around you are the ones that are detrimental to you, and that's just the will of the world. Sometimes that happens, but it doesn't mean just because the people that are closest to you can't help it, it doesn't mean other people that are outside of that can't help. You know, it's just finding those people that can help you.
And what's helped you find those people? Because that's very important, because it's well and good saying, you know, it's good to have these people around you. Are there things that you've done consciously that you've said, you know, I need to have the right people around me, and this is what I need to do to get to that point?
I think priding myself on being quite spiritual, not religious, but spiritual. I tend to, luckily for me, is that I attract the right people.
So you think that you have that energy, or
yes, that draws people towards me, and it's a certain type of people. Again, you know, by default you have family, and luckily I've heard many different people's stories, and they don't have that type of family, or a supportive family, or even a good family, or a family at all. So I have at least the small foundations there, and then anyone who has, outer people who you weren't born with and born connected to, I believe that I have a certain type of energy that allows me to draw those good kind of energies around me. I rarely come across people with who are called my friends that are detrimental to me. As an adult, I'm talking about. So as a child, as a teenager, of course, I experienced bullying and stuff. So of course I was around people that, but those were by force. I was in school, you know, in college. I didn't have a choice of who I was navigating my time with. Now I do have a choice. Wherever I go to work, as much as you don't have a choice of who you work with, you can leave that job and find another one.
And is that very important to the whole process of making sure you're in a good space? You know, dealing with the depression, surrounding yourself with people that you think help rather than hinder the situation.
Yeah. So 100%, I do believe that it's important to know what is good for you, or try and understand what is good for you, and what is good for your growth, and what type of people it is that you want around you. I know I keep mentioning family and friends as a separate entity, but to me they're the same. There's no separation between the people that you were born in blood with and the people that you decide that you want to navigate with. So the people that I choose to be my friends. They're also my family, and my family are my friends. But the same way, if there's somebody in my family or one of my friends who I don't feel is a good for me to be around, then I can separate myself from that. And I do believe it's very important, regardless of who it is, if they are not making you feel well, making you feel good, making you, or they are making you feel bad, or bringing you back into spaces that you don't want to be in, or that you've passed, or again hindering you, then you need to remove those people, regardless of whatever it is their relationship is with you.
That's interesting, because moving people sounds like a very harsh thing to do, but actually you're doing it to the benefit of your health, which is an important factor. If you look back and you think about the journey you've been on, what have been the things that you think, oh, this is, first of all, the things that you've enjoyed? I know it's a difficult process, but is there elements where you think, I've really enjoyed this as part of this? If that was the case, what would that be? What would that look like?
I think the finding the fine line between being confident and cocky.
Yeah, okay.
So I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
As much as it's not nice, becoming big-headed. So I became extremely big-headed last year. Yeah. Extremely. My head was inflated. Yeah. And I knew that at a point, I knew where the point crossed over from when I was just this sweet Jackie who was being nice to everyone and was quite humble in how I felt about myself, to inflation and becoming big-headed. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole process of it. Other people allowed me to be big-headed, so they helped that grow. So that, I guess, that process was quite fun. And now bringing myself back to back to that fine line, because I dabble a bit in between the two of being extremely cocky sometimes and thinking, or not thinking, knowing that I'm the best at everything I do. Like, there's nowhere that I will go or do or say that, or be in a situation and I won't say I'm the best at that, whatever it is.
Do you actually believe that, or is it just
yeah. But that's me saying it is cocky, is arrogant. That's why I say I dabble in that side a bit. But then again, I'm on a normal day, I'm quite humble and I listen and stuff like that. But I know where the fine line is. That was the what I enjoyed about learning. I did cross it and not realize that I had crossed it until I hurt somebody's feelings, which again, in hand is not very nice, and I didn't feel good, and that's why I had to come back and learn where this line that I've kind of completely passed.
So is that the only thing that you've done or the only thing that you think is fun, is that is almost like you've projected this sense of confidence where you faked it and you made it, and you've actually gone beyond making it, where it becomes such a thing that's detrimental to other people.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at drawing that kind of back.
Yeah.
But is there other lessons that you've learned similar to that you've enjoyed as part of this process?
I guess like just the whole people reaching out to me and having conversations with people that I never thought I would, or meeting people that I wouldn't have met in my normal everyday activity life.
Why is that enjoyable? Aside from the fact that it clearly helps other people, what else does it give you, and
it molds me into a more rounded person, because you hear different opinions, different experiences. You also make new connections, new friends, a new way of thinking. Sometimes you can get used to thinking a certain way, and you become very complacent with in life and stuff like that. And then you meet a billionaire. I haven't, but you might, or I might at some point, and then their way of thinking, oh, actually, I've never thought about it like that, and then you get out of your comfort zone, and now you've had a conversation with someone that it may have been for them because they've told you about their problems or something, for instance. But then they've also added how they got to billionaire status. But you were never a billionaire in the first place. So now you've helped them with, you've given them something, but you've also taken something. So that's also been quite fun in meeting a lot of different people and having just a more well-rounded experience and conversation. In confidence, because now I don't fear speaking to anybody. There's no situation that I'd find myself in where I'm like, this is very scary. I don't think I can speak to this person. I don't think I can go on this radio station. I don't think I can go on this podcast. Or I don't have that feeling of when I was telling you just earlier about going into university, and before the conversation part came up, I leave. Going home, since that and university is done for me for the day. Now I don't have that. Not all the time will I go and initiate conversation. It depends on the energy that I have the day and the energy of the room or the energy of the people that I feel. But in general, I don't have that fear.
So do you find conversations fun now? Because before they sound like they were the dreaded experiences. Now do you find them a fun experience because of the fact that you've learned that, having diverse conversations with people, you get to learn something new that you never know. So you enjoy it. That's like a total turnaround from the experience.
Yeah, so just dreading a conversation to now wanting
to have a
conversation and ready and willing to have these conversations. And obviously with this book as well, the book coming, I've been able to have even way more conversations than I did before I started the blog. And then I started the blog, I had a lot of conversations then, and now I'm writing the book, and now the conversations have expanded, and people very interested in what I have to say, and the experiences and stuff like that. So complete 180, I think. And the book is basically a story of the 180 flip between no confidence to confidence, the 180 flip between not wanting to speak and dreading being around peers to wanting to have love or be in love or stuff like that. So it's the whole book is just that 180 between being a little bit younger to now up till today. Of course, I don't have a story for moving forwards because I haven't lived that one. So hopefully that will be next.
So what are you looking forward to now? You have your blog. You've been introduced to new people. You now have a book. So what are the things that you're looking forward to in the next 5, 10, 15 years from now? What is exciting you?
I guess firstly the short looking forward movement is for people to read the book. And then get an essence of how people feel. Get that feedback and listen to, and then again, like you said, have more conversations, and then hopefully I have a new chapter in my life between the next 5. I hope I'm not just doing the same thing, and then moving forward and writing more because that's my passion, and that's also the escape, but it's also the outlet. It's also the way I let things out. I guess when I was talking about conversation, I feel like when I speak, my mind moves very quickly, and my words sometimes get stumbled, or I'm not relaying the message that my mind has. But with writing, with the page, with the computer, everything is relayed properly in its time, in its place, and it makes a lot of sense. So really perfecting that, or nothing is perfect, but perfecting that craft as well, and then being able to have an opportunity to have wider conversations about depression, moving forward, overcoming, and
So when you get to a point where you've done the books in the future and continue to write, have you ever thought about going beyond that, putting things on screen, writing for screen, short stories or animations or things like that? Is that something that's part of your life, or is just books is the main thing?
I haven't really had a think about what other writing techniques that I went to university and we studied them all.
Yeah. Okay.
So in writing we studied them all. Did I enjoy them though? Maybe I didn't enjoy them because I was in university.
Yeah.
And because when things are forced,
Yeah.
you tend to not like it. Yeah. Or not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I find when I'm forced to do things, I tend to repel from those things. So I haven't had an opportunity to really discover them for myself or rediscover them. It would be amazing to see on screen, see my work on screen. To write it though myself, I don't know.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, to write it myself.
Do you think that will be a challenge, or just think that you probably don't have at this stage? You don't see that you have the passion or the
not the passion, but it's the challenge.
Yeah,
the challenge, because writing for screen is not the same as writing for book.
Yeah.
Writing for book is not the same as writing for blog.
Yeah.
And then there's so many guidelines,
Yeah.
and there's so many things you have to think about, way more than what you'd think about on your internet blog, to what your book, like the process of writing a book, just putting things into its format, just formatting, not actually writing, just formatting, was hard. Was extremely hard. And watching YouTube and then going back to Microsoft Word, and then watching YouTube and going back to Microsoft Word, and that in between, it was just at 4 a.m. you're going on Microsoft Word, YouTube. It was just crazy. And then now writing for screen, that is another, you have to now learn this whole process of this goes here and this goes here and speech is here, and then my fear about that is, with my writing for page, when people read it, they read it with their own feeling. So whatever they felt that day or that year or that, however they read, is how they've taken the message. And it's not always going to be how I've given the message. But there's a relationship between me and you, the reader. Me and you, meaning one-on-one. Although, yes, it's many of us, but it's me and you as the reader, and then me and so-and-so as the reader. With the screen, it is now me as the writer against all of the actors who are now going to portray whatever they feel, because they can't be me and they never will be. They don't have my heart or my spirit or my mind or anything. So they still will be giving the message to now the consumers. That's another stage, another relationship. It's now 3 or 4 people in a relationship in between just me and the reader. So that's although I fear it so much now between a one-on-one relationship, that's now an even bigger thing that I would have to swallow if I was to write for stage, is that I'm almost now completely not in control of how somebody is going to take my writing.
And is that important?
Very.
Okay.
I've read online, many different people have many different opinions of this. And we also study in university and also in secondary school, when you analyze Shakespeare and these, literary books and agents and stuff like that, is that they ask you, how do you think so-and-so wrote it? And you can't answer that question as much as they want you to. That's the forced question. That's even a question in the GCSE exams, but you can't answer that question because you're not them. So that was that. But to me, it's still I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying. But I have no control over anyone else apart from myself. So that's why I like to write with clarity. I love the style of other people where they write very indirectly, or they have like a very aggressive message, but they're not saying a lot of words. So it's the expression in the word, in the sound of their voice, that will give it to you. But what if I read the same thing that you shouted in a soft voice? It's now taken very differently. So without that control, because you can't, that's my fear. But it's still very important to me, although I don't have any control over it. I still want. That's why I try to write. So that's what I say. That's why I try to write very clearly and concisely. The sentences are not unfinished.
So
as such,
understand
exactly what I'm saying, or I'm giving enough so that you can understand what I'm saying, rather than giving a little and open to interpretation. Shakespeare's a lot open to interpretation. Of course, it's Old English too, so we have to analyze it or interpret it how we've translated or we've changed the language. But again, like a lot of poets that I've heard and writers that I've read, some of their work is a little bit more open to for you to take whatever it is that you want to take out of it. But if I'm giving you a message, I want you to receive it how I've given it.
Have you intended to?
Yeah.
Okay. So just here, backtracking a couple of things I just want to touch on. The thing is, is the process of you writing a book. You mentioned that you were looking online. So this is your first book. Were there any guidelines or any help that you received that you thought this was important for me to have for me to complete this book?
Maybe I connected with another writer who was her first time writing a book. Her name is Heidi. Online, I just found her online actually, and she said to me, her book is called Gravity, I think, and she was saying to me that I should use a certain template that she used to make the book cover. And that was confusing because this is a template and I'm not skilled in those kind of things. And then she helped me with the formatting as well. So she said you should go on YouTube. She was actually the one who suggested YouTube. To go on YouTube, type in this specific someone who she watched, who she found very helpful. But the what I would give to other people who want to do the same process, is to take time and not to rush. The information is there available. I don't have the direct sources of where I got the information from now, because I kind of just trial and errored so many different types of videos, so many different types of here's to and how to, and self-publishing also means that you do everything yourself, and you don't have a publisher to do all those kind of things for you. But the most important thing was to make sure that you get other people to edit your work, people who are not going to be biased in terms of
when you say edit, what do you mean?
Go back and read your work to make sure it flows.
Okay.
To make sure the punctuation, because like I said, my mind moves too fast, so spelling for me is like completely behind. So I had to get other people to really go back and see those mistakes that I made, or mistakes that I could make, and punctuation, grammar, and then flow, because it's easy to kind of write a message that makes sense in your head, but does it make sense being read by somebody else? Yeah. So
now that you've written, you've been through. My takeaway from this conversation is a couple of things. First thing, the key things about surrounding yourself with people that provide you with good energy.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that always at the beginning of this stage you talk about getting the right help as well. So that having the right help that fed you with the tools to be able to then go out into the world and start managing the situations that you were faced with, that you're finding challenging or moving away from. I think that's very important, that you find that help surround yourself with with the right people. The other thing that I found interesting was that the fake it until you make it is that it's almost like you had to project an element of self-confidence until you believe that you were confident, but then recognize in yourself that maybe you've gone a bit too far. Now let me draw it back to a place where it's much nicer, with a better place for friends and families.
Others, yeah.
The other thing that also I learned is that you talk about keep learning, which is an important thing. And this journey you've been on, it doesn't seem like there is an end. It's not like you can say there's a finishing line.
No.
It's a continuous process on a day-to-day that you need to work on. And you sound like you're very willing to learn from that process, which is good. I think from everyone, I think that's an important thing you cannot stop learning from there. Is there anything else that I've missed out that this should be that's important takeaway from this conversation?
Just communicate as much as possible with whoever that you can. If it's not a friend, if it's not a family member, it could be a colleague. If it's not, then a therapist. There's people out there to help you with things and to help you navigate through things. It's also okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to be upset and to be sad. Live in those moments. Those moments are what you're supposed to go through to be able to learn yourself and learn others, but also to come out onto the other side of whatever it is upset that you had. We're never going to navigate or go through life without problems, without sadness, without mistakes. All of those things are part of the process. Don't try and run away from those things. They're going to happen regardless. Deal with things in your time, but deal with them. Okay. Deal with them and learn. There's nothing. I don't believe there's anything. Again, exclusive. Any feeling that is exclusive or anything that is exclusive to anybody. Share your ideas and share your experiences, because you never know what you're gonna collect back. As much as you might share outside, and you think, oh, you've lost everything of yourself. You haven't, because you'll receive. Maybe not at that second, but you definitely will receive from someone at some point, or something, or some experience. So just don't feel so negative in negative emotions. Although the emotion is negative at the time, you feel like, oh my God, everything is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. I can't live with this. I can't live like this. Take back that there is something to take away from every negative. There's no yin without yang. There's no sunshine without darkness. So yeah.
So if people want to get hold of you and to continue communicating and continue the conversation with you, how do they contact you? How do they get hold of you?
So my Instagram is Jack's Poetry, spelled with 2 J's. So JJACQZPOERTY. I told you I'm not good with spelling. So Jack's Poetry with 2 J's. And the website is www.ontheothersideofpoetry.com, and through there's my email link. There's a link to email me or to message me via the website, so we can have like an online chat. There's an option for online chat there. Just send me a message if you feel comfortable to do that, and then I'll be popping up at many different types of empowerment events and stuff like that around London. And I have my book launch next week, Sunday, 1st of March. The tickets are sold out, so unfortunately there's no more tickets to buy. But next week there will be an opportunity to win a chance to get a chance to attend the book launch, so that you can get your book signed and buy a book from me directly and have a little talk with me and stuff like that. So that you can find that out on Jack's Poetry.
Okay, so the Instagram. Book, where they can buy the books is also on Jack.
Yeah, so the book will be available on Amazon. You just type in On the Other Side and find my name, Jackie Alecho. It'll be one of the top 5, I think, searches. But yeah, that information again will be on Jack's Poetry.
Okay, and also
Instagram.
we planning to put the book on Nifty Conversations.
Yep,
about
it will be on
five,
sale there. Yeah.
five books there. Jackie, this has been another Nifty Conversation. Thank you very much for your time. Is there anything else you want to say, share with anybody out there?
Yeah, just you're not alone. You're not alone. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jackie.